Saskatchewan is an agricultural province. We have a lot of land that's already been broken. The native grasslands that exist in the province occupy only a fraction of what they were one time. 17% maybe of the land is still native grasslands. That's your last refuge of diversity in the province. Ranchers are the people that make the day-to-day decisions on the grasslands. Plain and simple.
I guess the rancher is the first conservationist because we're the ones in the land. We see it every day. We have to conserve for our livestock. I mean, that's how they flourish, is if their land is looked after, the cows will be looked after and will be looked after.
There's still some misunderstanding about what conservation easements are. A conservation easement here is a negotiated agreement between two bodies, and it's done on a voluntary basis.
A conservation easement is a legally binding agreement between producers and typically a conservation-oriented organization. Both parties need to be in agreement to put it on the title, and that's what it is. It's an interest on the title to conserve natural lands while also allowing private land ownership and management.
The Saskatchewan Conservation Easement Act allows for easements to be either a specific length of time, or a term, we call it a term, or perpetual, which is forever. In my toolbox, I would like to have both.
In Saskatchewan, we have 2,400 easements, and that's 450,000 acres. So about 5% of our grasslands are protected by conservation easements.
About 2015, the Stock Growers Association passed a resolution to form a foundation. January 2020, we had our first meeting as a board of directors, and we've been going great guns ever since. The foundation is developing the idea of term conservation easements, and with a term conservation easement, the rancher knows that he is not locked into something forever. We hope that by offering conservation easements and other initiatives to help ranchers have a viable livelihood, that we can assist ranch families to transfer to the next generation.
I think there's probably nothing better as a parent to think that your kids want to carry on the lifestyle that you've raised them. So, I mean, you've passed on that love of land or the love of lifestyle. It means a lot.
I'd probably push my neighbor towards talking with people in the local area that are specializing in it, such as the Saskatchewan Stock Growers Foundation. Like they're the people on the ground that are really doing the groundwork, and kind of break the barrier and have someone to drink coffee with and explain things, which is kind of not replaceable. It's someone to explain it at your table.
As a stock grower foundation or a stock grower association, we're here to represent the needs and the wants of producers. And the starting point is always, well, let's have a chat.
I guess we started having conversations probably about 2 years ago. There's still some things that have to be worked out. They're going to determine what the land is worth, and then they'll have to figure out in the appraisal just what the length of your term and what value that would have.
I think the word easement kind of right away, to me anyway, we're just in the process, so the word easement does cause a bit of hesitation, right? But then visiting with them more and in conversation, it seems like it's going to be more of a collaboration of the two groups, so that gives a little relief to me.
I'd heard a bit about easements, mostly negative things, or just, how it's kind of restricting on the land that you've purchased, but I don't know, I was so excited to find a piece of land that was native and, a good chunk of ground that, I looked into the easements and asked quite a few questions with the local lady that is involved with that, and after talking with her, I realized it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of, easements are set up to protect, I guess, the grasslands that, I would like to see preserved, so it's not as big a deal as what I think most people think. especially if you're going to use it for ranching. There's a lot of benefits to it.
For compensation, a professional appraiser values the land and will determine the difference between the value of the land with and without the restrictions placed on the land by the conservation easement. In this before and after approach, the land parcel is valued based on its highest and best use, and then again where it's subject to the land use restrictions. The difference in value would be the payment made for a perpetual conservation easement. SSGF offers term conservation easements at 50 to 75% of what would be paid out from a perpetual easement depending on the length of the term. The SSGF is actively working to improve compensation to ensure landowners are being paid appropriately for the ecological goods and services that the grasslands provide.
If you have range conditions with a diverse set of habitats, you provide not only forage and for your beef herd, you're providing habitat for all sorts of wildlife.
It can be very important, this prairie habitat. The elk come down onto our ranch a little bit and we see moose, both whitetail and mule deer, antelope.
Right from insects to birds to snakes to whatever. And you create a diversity, and that diversity is resilient. These things have evolved over the last 10,000 years, and they can withstand the highs and lows of climatic conditions.
Every little piece matters. So every little piece of natural land that we can keep on the landscape will do us a world of good in the future. Just because of all those ecological goods and services that they provide. Habitat for wildlife is a big one. Retaining soil moisture, sequestering carbon, keeping our topsoil on the landscape. People usually feel a lot better when they're out in this type of landscape. So just having it around is really important, not just for us, but for our kids.
You need to work together and be open and frank with each other, and you can have the discussions, and when problems arise, if you have that relationship, you can get through it. These partners that we've all worked with over the last few years, the goal is to work with the ranchers and make sure that something's in place that works for them. You can have the world's best program, but if you have zero uptake, you have zero conservation.
I think ranchers, they're pretty proud of their land and how they manage it. So I think that's one of the benefits, is it formalizes that pride a little bit.
Because I have an easement on this land, it will remain the way it is for generations. We can live on the land and use the land and benefit from the land, but not change it. It can stay the same, and everybody can thrive from it.